I like that. Welcome, Kasino, to Champagne and Conversations. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Guys, I know we're a little bit late, but we always have to wait on the important people. So as you see his backdrop, which is construction, and I was waiting for them to finish some meetings. So here we are. We finally had a quiet moment where Kasino could talk to us and you guys can get this information that we want to share with you. So Kasino, thank you for joining Champagne and Conversations today.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. And I apologize for the delay.
No, it's no problem at all. You and I have actually had this planned for a little bit of time. And one thing that I wanted to share is that people don't often understand when I post things on the timeline, how it's happening in real time. So guys, I will say that the corporate gangster that we have in front of us, which is what he claims has on his tag, and that's how we started to talk. I was like, what's the corporate gangster? I.e. the legend. So we have a likeness in the world of construction, and he can obviously touch on that, but in the world of construction. So that's how we engaged project wise in that. And then obviously being a legend from the hip hop era that we all have grown up on and love. We wanted to tie that in. And now, unfortunately, we are doing a special edition because we've lost one of our greats. And we want to talk about the legacy in which Kasino had an opportunity to experience. Yeah. And so it is a sad time. Obviously, we've lost DMX, great legend. And we wanted to have Kasino to share a little bit of his experience with working with DMX and a story that I thought was just quite amazing. So we are celebrating his life today, guys, but we want to talk about the legacy, what DMX left on Kasino's life and, his experiences in that. So with all of that, Kasino, please take it away in terms of introducing us to all of that good stuff.
Okay, well, I guess first to say, a lot of people will wonder. I'm originally born in Bronx, New York, but I moved to Yonkers, New York when I was 13. So I really claimed Yonkers until my friends from the Bronx are around. So I grew up going to high school with the Locks and kind of got into the music business just because, it was what everybody was doing. I had went to college to play football and got injured, so I was home and just working and really just wanted to get into the music with everybody else. So I actually met DMX through that Rough Riders family. It was a lot of people see the music part of X, and a lot of people talk about the struggles that he had, but to be somebody on the inside of that family and be able to get the amount of information that we were from somebody who was doing music long before we were. DMX had been making his own mixtapes, since I was 13 and just got to Yonkers. So he had already started to have a following in the Yonkers area, and it just had never really grown past that. Mm-hmm. I think by being in the studio with him, and as the Locks begin their relationship with Bad Boy, which a lot of people don't realize, DMX didn't get signed to Def Jam until after the Locks were already signed to Bad Boy. And there was a song called Niggas Done Started Something that DMX was on with the Locks, which also helped him to get Puff listening to his music and some other people listening to his music too. So, but the first thing was to be involved in all those battles. I mean, people would come from Brooklyn, from Queens, from the Bronx, from Mount Vernon, all to that studio in Yonkers, Rough Rider Studio, just to have an opportunity to have a chance at the title to battle DMX. And to be an artist in that environment, I mean, you got to see what it meant to be prepared for that, every day, every other day he was having to come there. and we would be there and we'd be part of the battles and we spit our little verses and but you had to be on the top of your game to be in that environment and be around those people. So that's really the first thing. The second thing was as he signed his deal with Def Jam and began working on this Dark and Hell is Hot album, I got a deal with Jive Records of my own as an artist with Jive. So I was beginning to, do the mixtape circuit and do a couple of different things. And I think at that time, I hadn't gotten on any nationally released album, just had released mixtape stuff. And Dame Grease, who was the person, he produced 11 songs on DMX's first album, is Dark and Hell is Hot. So I was just sitting in the house one day, I got a call from DMX and Grease, and they was in the studio and called me to come down there because he said that he wanted to do a song with some of the young artists that was in the studio. So myself, Dragon, Loose, and Big Stan went down there and did the song For My Dogs, which became my first national release, which was the first song that that people really got an opportunity to hear my voice. And with the album doing so well, it gave me a platform that I didn't have before as far as music was concerned. It allowed me to better my position with my own record label. So I'm always grateful to him for doing that, but also for conversations that we had about music, about stage presence, about how to do a show. DMX didn't have a hype man. He went on the stage by himself, in front of thousands of people. He performed with nobody else hyping him up, and he was able to perform under that pressure. And it became something that we expected of ourselves, as did the rest of the people that followed around him. So it was great to have the music relationship with him, but it was even better to be on the road with him and learn under him and with him.
So question going back to the battles, did you ever have a battle with him as you had come into contact with him initially?
No, I had never been in a battle with him.
Okay.
Till we were in Rough Rider Studios. And then you were in a battle with him. You stood on the side of the room he was on because you was on his side. And these guys Brooklyn coming here. And when you were battling X, like he was one of the artists that when you battled him, he was pointing at you and he was directing at you. And he would say things like, I will put his, like the guy who came with you, he'd point at him and say, I will put his brains all over your shirt. Like, so you knew what side of the table you was on. So I can't say I didn't ever battle X. I just was on the side where he was, and other guys would come, they bring 5 or 6 guys and we'd be up there with 5 or 6 guys. And made the best. So
exactly. So that was just awesome energy for you to be able to even be in that space and even to learn. And like you said, to just kind of take it all in as you were developing as an artist. Something very profound that I want to make certain before we continue that you say it before, that you had not been able to actually get something, kind of mainstream. You were doing mixtapes originally. And when you got the call for the opportunity to work with X on the song, I wanted to just touch base on that, how you felt about being able to get that opportunity and understanding that you got the opportunity with such, a great person.
Well, and I think I didn't realize until afterwards. Like as I grew, I didn't realize how big that was.
Yeah.
At the time I may have been 17 years old. I had just left, I was out of college, maybe 17, 18 years old. And these were my friends, so it's kind of like, for me, it was, hey, I did a song with my buddies. Like I never really understood the magnitude of what I had actually accomplished until DMX started to really become big and people begin to say, oh, that was you on, and I realized the magnitude of what I had accomplished. And at that, by then, I had been on the Rush Hour soundtrack, Blade soundtrack, Corrupted soundtrack, and the Locks, We Are the Street. So now I had more national albums under my belt, that have been released. But nothing was nothing was at the level that his album reached. You know, nothing sold as many records as what his did. Nothing gave me the name recognition that his did. And it just so it took a while for me to realize it, because you know, when you in the middle of it, especially at that age, I'm just doing music with my buddies. Like it didn't impact me until I got a little more seasoned and further into the music business to realize how big that actually was.
How amazing that was. And then even from that, being that it was the single "This Is for My Dog" on a gold album, I noticed that his verse was last.
Mm-hmm.
So it just still furthers the conversation that he was such a giver and such that person that was willing to give everything. You know, everyone else, obviously, I believe you were first, or were you
Yep.
second? Okay. Yeah. So that's so dope. And for you to not even realize the positioning of that was once I heard that, I was like, we have got to touch on that, because with everything that's going on right now and all the conversations and such, we want to speak on legacy. We want to speak on what people meant to us. And that is amazing. It's huge. Just like you said, you've had the opportunity to work on some other major albums, and your music is phenomenal as well. But just to have that, and obviously that's something that's going to be, now cherished, obviously, because he's no longer with us. But I thought that was amazing. So congratulations to you. And one thing I will say, guys, is that Kasino and I had planned this conversation. We were going to touch on some other things, which we will. But he too, when called to say, "Are you good in terms of anything else we need to do to prepare for the meeting?" I was like, "No, I think we're good." And you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna go on with my day." And then an hour or two later, the whole thing changed, and it was like, "Can you talk to me tomorrow?" And you were like, "Yes." And I said, "This too is the divine." You understand? So it was like, nope, you all were supposed to talk. Get on there and talk about me, right?
No,
Get on there and talk about me. So if no one understood what we were doing, we were planning for this moment to celebrate X and what he has contributed to the culture, what he contributed to you guys' lives. All of you all have obviously had a major impact from what he was offering. And, I'm so glad that you were able to experience it. And I'm thanking you for being able to share that with us.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
one thing I just want to add, like I know there's a lot of people who X has crossed paths with, and it's one thing it's a story that always sticks in my mind. We were in Charlotte, and DMX had a show, and I probably took 3 or 4 of my friends from Columbia with me, and we went to meet him. And and for my friends, when I tell them, yeah, I know X, we grew up together, we hung together and stuff. So in their mind, most people are like, yeah, okay, whatever. So they hear the song, they're like, yeah, we know you was on the song with him, but X had a way that if you were in his circle, it didn't matter where you were. When he saw you, you would think that he was your fan. So when we walked in the room, X is playing pool. He lifts his head up. He's like, "What? Kasino? Oh, what's good?" He jumps on top of the pool table. He's like, he jumped down. He hugged me super hard. And he's like, "Man, where you been?" This, that, and the other. And for me, for somebody to be in the caliber that he is, and to be able to give you that kind of energy to the point where my friends were stunned. Like when he passed away, one of my buddies, Fat Rat, who was there, said, "Man, all I remember is the day that we went to the pool hall and he saw you, and like how big and the way he acted when he saw you." And that's what X was as a friend to the people who knew him. He was loyal to the people who knew him. He never forgot a face. And if you was in that circle, I mean, it was nothing he wouldn't do for you. And it wasn't a moment that he gave you stuck up or conceited or I'm too famous to be, to pretend I'm your friend at this moment. Like, he would drop everything for somebody that he knew and greet you just like you was part of his family, no matter who was around. And I think that I remember about him that was critical and really something that I believed in.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's just breathtaking. It's kind of one of those things where you just got to take a moment and say, rest in power. And, obviously you're at peace and, being able to, just kind of woosah from that. But it's been a little bit trying. It's been, obviously it was very upsetting because even from my perspective, in the spiritual realm in which I operate, I was just cheering, like, you want that person to just get the strength and, stand back up and say, I beat this thing and you got it. And now everybody wraps around and pushes you to the finish line of the next stage of life, right? So I think that's just what I was thinking. And then, even when it got down to those last hours and everyone was just kind of on edge, it was just like, oh, you know?
It's one thing that I'll say, and a lot of people don't know about me is I actually have a bachelor degree in Christian humanities. So nobody people don't know that, but I believe that within prayer that there's understanding that when we pray for what God decides is best, and X made a permanent mark on everybody he touched.
Absolutely.
It's God's decision what happens. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And he can do his work from that place. And obviously we as those that understand, you probably can do even more from that place than you can from here. That spiritual realm is so much greater than this physical. And
that's right.
and we're thankful for the time that he was here, the lives that he touched. And obviously we know that he's still moving because he definitely did this. So he did this out of order any day, any hour, it was going to happen. So yes.
It's still going on. Yeah, but I enjoy it, and I stepped away from the game for a long time. So I keep my personal opinions about situations and people to myself, but I certainly would not want anybody to carry any negative energy about who X was and what he did.
Absolutely. I know. And that's exactly why I wanted you to share your experience, your personal experience. Like you said, even if people were like, I don't know, but when you actually can say that you were in the presence for multiple times, then that is something for people to take away and understanding who and what he was and what he stood for, despite what people want to add to it. And that kind of takes us into your song I Promise, which the lyrics are so timely because of what everyone was doing for X and then what people were or were not doing for Black Rob.
Right.
So I wanted to get your take on, had you gotten any experience or had any interaction experience with Black Rob and just what you thought about, some of the things that have been going on with that.
Um, Being part of, like I said, being part of that camp and with the Locks, and I spent a lot of time going with them to the studio, driving them to the studio. So I met Black Rob a lot of times. And then, same thing, New York rappers. And back in those days, if you were rapping in Brooklyn, you were rapping in the Bronx, at some point we got to come together and we're going to see who's better. So I've also been in those type of environments with Rob before. Been on some of the tours with Bad Boy and been there with Rob. And I think the story to be told is that a lot of people watch recording artists, rappers, not just rappers, but singers, and they see the glitz and they see the glamour, and they don't really understand the way that we get paid as artists, and they don't understand the financial benefits of being the artist. And people see the cars, the money, the jewelry, and automatically assume that your favorite artist is very well off financially, and a lot of times that's not the case. And I know that the industry is different now with streaming and so on and so forth, but something that people to make note of, when you see your favorite artist and he's got 1 million views on Spotify and he's got 1 million views on YouTube, you automatically assume you automatically assume that he's reached a level of financial status where he's well off. And I try to get young artists, and I've got one young artist of my own, and I try to get everybody to understand something that X did explain to me, that it's just shows is how you make money. Spotify streams, 1 million Spotify streams is $4,000. So if your favorite artist has 10 million streams, he made $40,000 off of that. Um, um, a million views on YouTube is probably closer to $5,500. So if you get 10 million views, you made $55,000. And I think people people see it and they automatically assume, well, he's got to be well off. And I think that's what allows an artist like Black Rob and people to see it from the outside and think that he's doing so well, and then find out that he's in the financial position he's in is so shocking, because people don't understand the way a music artist get compensated, and how if you with the right label, the clothes, the jewelry, the cars are all part of the pageantry required to make you look successful. And then at the end of the day, success is what you do with the money that you do receive from it. And that's how a lot of artists that are financially well off are not financially well off from music, but financially well off from the investments that they made from. So.
Right. And Rob did speak about, contracts, like not knowing exactly what he was getting into to a degree. And I think that that's important for obviously the new and upcoming artists, if they do go to a label as opposed to independent, that they have to understand that. And unfortunately, I've heard, Finesse talk about it, and others, obviously, from you all's era, that contracts were not strong. They weren't big contracts. And then obviously when you had the opportunity to get advances and such, that took you into a different opportunity. So once you got the advance, then you owe the label, and all of those other formulas then take place, which not understanding, and you just want the money, like you said, and then spend it on all the material things.
That's right. And then and a lot of people automatically, the first reaction was, because you knew that Rob was on Bad Boy, your first reaction is, how can Puff have done him like that? And a lot of people don't realize that you've got business attorneys, you've got music attorneys that are supposed to represent you and take care of you and make sure that you have the right deal and financially straight in your deal. And at the end of the day, Bad Boy was a business, and they did business.
And still is.
They did business to their benefit, and it's your responsibility to protect yourself. And that's in any deal or independent deal or 360 deal that you have. It's your responsibility to protect yourself and your business. It is not the person offering you an opportunities business to take care of you and make sure you're done, that you are taken care of. And if you look at it as a business, then you will learn to protect yourself and from those opportunities and in situations like that. So I mean, I don't fault Bad Boy for the way they did things and conduct the business, or any of the other record labels for trying to get the best deal for them. If you go right now, through my nonprofit organization, I help guys that are formerly incarcerated get jobs. And the first thing I tell them is, when you fill out your job application and it asks you how much you want to make, that is the only time they're going to ask you how much you want to make. If you put $10 on the paper, that's what you're going to get. If that's what you feel you're worth and you accept that, that's what you're going to get paid. But if you feel like your job, what you're doing is a $15 an hour job, and you put that on the paper, that's what you're going to get. So when you walk into those record deals, it's the same thing. Whatever you put down is what you want to get. They're going to pay you based on what you feel like your worth is. And I hate to see somebody like Rob suffering in that fashion, but you sometimes you surround yourself with the guys that are in the struggle with you, and they can only teach you how to survive the struggle. You've got to somebody who's gotten past the struggle and reached higher heights to teach you how to get past the struggle.
That's
And that's
good.
there about that.
That's good. And I know you have been with Styles P, and he's been on several lives talking about, um, just the nature of the business, the nature of the
Yeah.
record business, and what you all have gone through. So, there's another layer to that, but it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate to watch, our Black men, our
Right.
legends, our talent. And again, another one that, we were just champion to, even though he was not well and not, maybe a lot of people knew about that he was just going to bounce back, and be a whoa again. So we were just hoping, you know what I mean? And obviously, and I will say that I had to come to terms with, I think I was still grieving from just the loss of X and what was going on with all of that. And every time you look at something on social media or whatever, you sing it. And now we have to add Black Rob to that. It was just like, oh, like, what do? You feel like it's not anything that you can do, but just kind of speak out in whatever regard, try to get some, was this really the situation, or was there an underlying thing that no one knew about? And unfortunately, we didn't really see that he was ill until he was ill.
Right.
I went back looking, and it was like 2015 that he was on Sway, and he spoke about his illnesses, but he looked healthy. He didn't look like he did when they put him on,
Right.
in the hospital bed. So that was upsetting to me, because I'm saying no one deserves to be shown in that light,
Right.
at all. So yeah, that was just one of those things where it was just a little bit tough to deal with that. So you being in the mix and, being able to shed some light on that, I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on, obviously us losing another great as well with the passing of Black Rob. So you spoke about I guess, having a nonprofit for the transition. How long have you been doing that, and how effective has that been in the area that you are? Because you're no longer in New York, right?
No, I moved to South Carolina 2000. Um,
Okay.
I had a little all expense paid vacation, compliments of the federal government in the middle of it. But I started my nonprofit organization in 2013.
Okay.
I myself am formerly incarcerated, or ex-offender, ex-felon, whatever people decide that they want to call it. And I went through the struggle of coming home with a felony and trying to find a job. And music at the time really wasn't an option for me. It wasn't something that I felt like I was prepared to get myself back into. And in 2012, my older brother, or well, my only brother, was murdered during an armed robbery. He was involved in selling drugs and was killed when somebody tried to rob him. So in 2013, I decided to do something to help people like us who were dealing with having a felony, to get to find jobs. And we do transitional work experience programs where we provide construction jobs to people that have criminal backgrounds, to give them time to make money and get back on their feet, because it's so difficult in that first 6 months returning home.
Right.
The fair. Most people are very supportive, and then when you get home, they support it for about 2 weeks, and then it's get off my couch, go get a job. So we just try to make sure that guys are learning what programs are available for them. Today is a very big day for our organization and the Commission of Minority Affairs. Today we released a resource guide that will be given to all people leaving the prison system here in the state of South Carolina.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so the mayor here was part of the discussion today, and we talked about, so every person leaving the correctional facility here will receive a guide that tells them where they can find shelter, education, work programs, assistance with mental health. And it's just a big guide that we put together for people in the state of South Carolina, so that they would have some resources and wouldn't be alone trying to figure out how to navigate the system. And we're hoping to that by testing it in South Carolina, we'll be able to do the same thing in some other states as well.
Absolutely. Now, are they coming to you trained? Like, do they have the HVAC or electrical, anything when they come to work for you? No. Okay.
So I do multiple things. One, we're involved in a 90-day program in the pre-release centers. So I get them at 90 days, and we start discussing what type of situations they're going home to.
Right.
We classes of about 60 guys at a time. And we start working with them, teaching them how to develop a plan for their career, for their family, start talking to them about anger management, parenting. So not just about jobs. And believe it or not, jobs is not until the last 15 days of the programming that we talk to them about actually working. We do mock interviews with them, show them how to fill out the application, tell them what to say when they're in the job interview. So we do a lot of things, and a lot of guys usually don't have much construction skill, but because the construction industry is so forgiving when it comes to second chances, it's a good place for them to start. And then if they want to take off and do something else, it's great. But at least they didn't come home with no job, nothing to direct their energy to, and end up back in the streets like so many of the people that,
Right.
our friends and family have done.
Absolutely. And that reform sounds like something that needs to be in the system before they even come home, because, so many of them just don't have that, and they should be training their mind, to get ready for all of that activity when they come home. So that's great that you're able to kind of combine all of that, because that's work. You got to do the mental part of it, and you got to do the trade part of it too.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And that's a lot of patience. So obviously you've been given that gift to be able to take on that. So hats off to you for that as well. And we never know. We never know what our position is and why. And obviously you having walked that, you understand it. So now you can train in that. So that in and of itself is definitely amazing, and congratulations to you for your manual. Today to me seems to be a significant day, 4/21/21. When I looked at that, I was like, I like that. So and the last thing that I don't want to keep you, but I did want to talk to you. I noticed that you were having some conversations on TED, and I wanted to say that was amazing. And so that ties into the corporate gangster, I would assume, as it relates to you being able to speak on the TED platform. And I thought that was awesome. So what were some of your conversations there?
So, and basically TEDx, and I don't know if how many people have viewed TED, but it's about people who are supposed to be an expert in a
Right.
specific. So I was selected as an expert at reentry, I guess, based on, how many people I had assisted with returning from prison. So basically we talked about the steps to successful reentry, which are all basically in the things that we talked about earlier on what an individual needs to do to have the best chance of successfully returning to society. So that was the conversation that we had. And the University of South Carolina actually selected me as the person to be able to do that. And the corporate gangster thing was something, that we started as a joke with my friends, because I was able to do so many things that people said a felon would never be able to do. I worked on military bases building construction buildings for military, when people said a felon can never go on bases and work for the military. I teach class in the prison system, where on the application that you apply to be able to teach class, it says on the bottom of the application that if you have a felony, you will not qualify to be in this, to be able to provide programming. And with the felony, I continue to do so. But also, coming from the background that I come from and seeing some of the things that I've seen, I'm not easily impressed financially. So I kind of got that from a lot of times I'm in the boardroom or in a conference with the general of a military base, or the mayor of a city, and we're having these conversations, and a lot of people laugh at the fact that I'm unfazed by the dollar amounts that are being discussed and the attitudes that people have. But I've just seen so much and come from a place where it requires a certain amount of tact.
Discipline.
Yeah.
But you're already, if you're in the walk and you're walking in your gift, you're already ordained for that. So you've been prepped before. So you don't even hear that because that's not what your motivation is. And obviously, as long as you're going after your purpose, that is going to just continue and it's not going to be anything that you're focused on. That's what people have to learn now is what the purpose is and not planning for the financial part of it because that's where it's going to wear out. The financial part. So that's awesome that you shared that information because a lot of people, and I think that with now being in this pandemic, we've learned so much. We've had to do so much soul searching. We've had to do so much planning and pivoting that you really do need to get into a point where you can actually understand who and what you are and why you're there so that you can get into those meetings and not be fazed by when are you writing the check or even be motivated by when are you writing the check? Because I mean, we can say we've been in a meeting and you're thinking, okay, can we get to the point? Like, when are we going to talk about the money? And those meetings don't feel good. No, they don't feel good.
So it's been, and I've been blessed. I definitely can tell a million stories about how blessed that I've been, and I do feel like when I made the decision that I was going to take this walk and try to do these things as far as nonprofits was concerned, some of the stuff just seems impossible, and tattooed it on my arm because the only difference between impossible and possible is I'm the only difference. And all I can do is change the way that I walk and the way that I move. And if I do it the right way, people will see what I've been through. And people who look like me, who've been through what I've been through, can say, if he can do it, why not me too? And and that's all I can do. It's not my job to teach you everything about life. All I can show you is that if you've been through any of the stuff that I've been through and you hear any of my stories, that you don't have an excuse anymore for not being successful at whatever it is that you want to do. Because you told me the same thing. So
that's it. That is it. And very powerful, very powerful. I appreciate you for taking the time out. I know you have your construction guys moving around in there, and we do appreciate you taking the time.
I think one of them tried to throw a ham at me a few minutes ago. They
Oh. Oh my gosh. So we do appreciate you dropping these gems, sharing DMX legacy. Rest in peace, X. Rest in peace, Black Rob. Kasino, much success on your programming. I know that you are still mentoring. As you said, you do have one young artist. So prayerfully, he will get guided in the correct way and be able to make some moments for himself as well that he can come back and speak about later. But we do appreciate your time and your conversation. And please be well out there, stay safe as we still kind of getting through this thing called pandemic. But you're doing amazing things, and we do congratulate you on that.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Kasino. And before we leave, can you share your, if you want anyone to follow you or follow your program, please share that.
You can follow me on all social media platforms under The Real Kasino, and that's with a K, so it's TheRealKasino. Or you can go to the website, which is therealcasino.com, to find out more information. And our program, which is called Why Not You Too, also has a website called whynotyou2.org. And you can go there and find out more about what we're doing. If you want to donate or help out in any way, all information is on the website for you to work with us. And we don't just work in South Carolina, we do work in other places. So if there's somebody that that may need a little assistance dealing with having a felony background, please send them to the website and tell them to message me. I get all of the message. It may take a little while for me to return to get back with you, but I will return your message.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kasino. You all stay safe. Thank you and have a great rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, Kasino Champagne and Conversations.
All right, thank you.